Altiparmak, Kerem Altiparmak, co-founder of Freedom of Expression Association. You're currently the legal consultant to International Commission of Jurists and also the former chair of Human Rights Center at the Ankara Bar Association, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of work in Turkey these months and years.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
It has always been in this way. I'll talk about a regime playing basketball in an ice hockey field, but very successful in claiming that this game should also be recognized as ice hockey. Just when I arrived yesterday to Copenhagen, I learned that the mayor of the largest city in Europe, Istanbul, was sentenced to 2 years, 7 months imprisonment for calling the election board as fools. And the very same election board cancelled his first victory in the Istanbul elections, and he won the second one even with a bigger margin. But of course, I will not call them fools, because I know that it's a crime in Turkey. But even talking in this way might be a crime. So I was in a meeting last month in Albania, where a lot of European judges participated, and all of them talked about the European Court's new mission to address authoritarian regimes. But they didn't name the states, and they didn't define what authoritarianism is. So I will try to give a small definition, which is related to our topic. I believe that what makes a regime authoritarian is not the fact that all decisions are taken by a majority or a single person or a group of people. The control of public discourse is what makes a regime authoritarian. And in an authoritarian regime, what can be debated in public and how can it be debated, decided by those in power? We already talked about Russia. This is not war, it's a special military operation. And you're not allowed to call it war. Or in Turkey, you cannot question government's intentions to interfere with the Syrian war because it's again, in one way or another, seen as a support to terrorism. So introduction of different views on politically critical issues are prohibited in authoritarian regimes. And obviously in modern era, internet is a big challenge for authoritarian regimes, as it creates alternative platforms for the opposition that might affect the public discourse. So for authoritarian regimes, there are two ways to address this problem, to control internet and social media. The first way to do it is to create an internet through total control of internet, to impose blanket bans on certain social media websites like Twitter, Facebook, and others. But this is how China, Iran, and North Korea address the risks created by internet. However, there's another less restrictive way to control internet and social media. This is by using complex legal procedures to control internet and social media, relying on some international values, other states' legislation. We've been talking about this. Look, Europeans do it, so we can do it as well, strategy. Turkey, a member of Council of Europe, a candidate to the European Union, of course cannot follow the path of China or North Korea. So the ruling parties in the country has therefore preferred the second way. Turkish authorities firstly have abused already existing legal tools to silence oppositional voices. I will give some examples. But in addition to this, in years the government has developed a very sophisticated internet regime to block anything critical about the state. And to justify this, it relied on universal values like protection of children from harmful content, protection of private life, reputation, fight against disinformation, or fight against terrorism. Firstly, using already existing law, abuse of criminal law, defamation cases, this works as a one-way traffic. Even the conviction of Istanbul mayor is a very good example of that. Even in liberal regimes, it is highly questionable whether internet and social media still provide us a real free space for all. Even minorities nowadays develop strategies to silence others that they see as a risk for their cause. That's why we frequently see invitations to join cancel campaigns. How can you invite that person to your organization or your conference? That person should be silenced, people say on internet. However, at least in legal regimes where judiciary acts impartially, these campaigns can be responded by those who are the subject of the campaign. And that person might say that this is unfair to cancel me. However, where judicial authorities do not address the requests coming from different political groups and cultural groups, invitations made through social media might be one of the main tools for stifling democracy. This is what's happening in Turkey. The European Court of Human Rights recently has concluded that a number of criminal law provisions of the Turkish law do not meet the legality standards of the convention. Amongst them are insult to president, insult to public servants, insult to state and state institutions, membership to terrorist organization, aiding and abetting terrorist organization. All those crimes, according to Turkish judicial authorities, can be committed through social media by posts. And when a person is targeted through internet, social media for committing those crimes by pro-government accounts, journalists and websites, then there's no way to escape from this. More than 44,000 people have been prosecuted for insulting the president in Turkey. More than 200,000 people have been investigated since Erdogan became the president. So we're talking about from 2014 to 2022. Turkish authorities very frequently show other states' legislations as an excuse for the existence of that provision. Yes, insult to Queen, King in Netherlands is prohibited, or in Spain it is prohibited. I'm not defending them, but those provisions are very rarely implemented. But we're talking about 200,000 cases. They're very similar for membership to terrorist organization. It might really surprise you, but in 7 years, close to 2 million people have been investigated for being a member of a terrorist organization in Turkey. So when a journalist is targeted by pro-government accounts, trolls, accusing that person has committed the crime of insult to the president, prosecutors quickly respond. In the case of Sedef Kabash, a female journalist, the campaign started after she cited a proverb in a television program, and in a very short time, leading politicians, even the president of communication, condemned her, and she was arrested. And she stayed in custody for 40 days for insulting the president. And finally, she was released after she received 2 years and 4 months imprisonment sentence. In another case, Turkish singer Gülşen, she's known as Turkish Madonna, she made a joke about religious schools in a concert. 4 months after that joke, someone found it and put on social media. What happened? A similar thing. All pro-government accounts started to target her, and she was arrested for inciting hatred against who? Students of the religious schools. That's really ridiculous because it's vague and unforeseeable. But this is not enough for the government to control the public debate. So the government has developed a very sophisticated internet law. This law called Regulation of Publications on the Internet, Combating Crimes Committed by Means of Such Publications. It was enacted 15 years ago and originally aimed to protect children from harmful content. Then it protected the children of politicians rather than the general children. And it has been amended 14 times since its adoption, which with each amendment, both quantity and quality of restrictions have increased to a level of suffocation of freedom of speech on the internet. As the end of 2021, a total of 574,798 websites and domain names was blocked from Turkey. And according to the Twitter and Facebook transparency reports, Turkey has been one of the top requesters from social media companies to remove content in the last decade. The authority to issue or request blocking order is granted to judicial organs, but also numerous administrative bodies under various laws and regulations in Turkey. But the access blocking orders mainly issued by the newly created criminal peace judges. They rely on different provisions of Law 5651. This is the internet law. How it works, just give a couple of information about this law. For instance, by virtue of Article 8A, the power to remove content and or block access to a website in order to protect the right to life or security of life and property, ensure national security, protect public order, prevent crimes, or protect public health is vested primarily with judges. How it works? The administrative body makes a list, hundreds of different URLs. It is presented to the criminal peace judge, and of course this criminal peace judge does not visit every single URL, and in less than an hour it orders the decision, and all websites are required to remove the content when that decision is rendered. From 2015 to the end of 2020, access to more than 23,135 internet addresses, including YouTube videos, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, were prohibited by those decisions. By the way, a lot of news agencies' websites entirely banned by those decisions, especially pro-Kurdish websites. They are seen as a threat to the national security, and those websites have been banned under that provision. Another one is the protection of personal rights, Article 9, entitled Removal of Content from Publication and Blocking of Access. And this has made it possible to block access to content to prevent violation of personal rights. But what is personal rights? If a politician is allegedly committed a corruption, then it's an attack to his personal rights, her personal rights. So you can't say a single word about Erdogan and his family because it is seen as an attack of personal rights, and quickly a removal decision is ordered by the criminal peace judge. Companies that really have big constructions affecting environment, companies also claim that their personal rights are affected by the news published by newspapers, internet news agencies. So Article 9 is another source of abuse for the government. And I'm coming to the final nail in the coffin considering the time limit. The only way to voice opposition in Turkey is social media, because when a decision is ordered, social media companies do not always comply with the judgment. Twitter denies to implement many decisions ordered by the Turkish criminal peace judges. So how can you oblige them to do this? So the final amendment made in the law, which is generally known as disinformation law, includes some provisions about social media companies. But starting with press law, now internet news agencies are brought into press law. Now, from now on, they will be seen as periodicals, and they will subject to press law. It means that, of course, there are some positive parts of this, but it also means that the right to correction can also be used and abused by politicians against those internet news agencies. Even the news is removed, those internet news agencies will be required to publish the corrections sent by politicians. So there's no way to reject this because there's very high fines that can be imposed against internet news agencies. A new crime is created, overtly disseminating false information to mislead the public. The name of the crime. Any person who overtly disseminates false information contrary to the facts about the internal and external security, public order, and public health, with the motive exclusively to create distress, fear, and panic among public, and in a manner conducive to disturb public space, shall be sentenced to imprisonment from 1 to 3 years. We haven't seen any implementation so far, but the leader of the opposition party was accused by public prosecutor. He has an immunity, so we don't know how it will proceed, but all political speeches might be categorized under this new crime. The Venice Commission, Council of Europe's Venice Commission, criticized the Turkish government. And one thing is very interesting. The Turkish government claims that other European members of Council of Europe also have similar provisions. So Turkey is adopting what Europeans already have. And the Venice Commission reports shows us that this is a disinformation. So the disinformation provision is based on disinformation, because the report clearly makes it clear that there's no such provision in those countries. And what will be the effect on social media, final thing of this law? First of all, from now on, the Turkish authorities will be able to require social media companies to give information about users. So far, social media companies did not have representation in Turkey, but they will have to establish a branch in Turkey. The representative should be either a Turkish citizen or a Turkish company. And when certain crimes, according to Turkish prosecutors, are committed, social media companies will have to hand over the names and the information about those people. That's the first thing. If they fail to do this, their bandwidth might be reduced up to 90% in Turkey by the Turkish authorities. Technically, it's a total ban. Secondly, from now on, they will have to remove the content requested by the Turkish authorities. If they fail to do so, first, the advertisements to those companies in Turkey will be limited. Then first 50% of bandwidth, and then 90% of bandwidth will be reduced in Turkey if they do not comply with the decision of the criminal peace judge or the administrative authorities. Plus, they will have to create a department to work with Turkish authorities to remove the title tags and highlighted content. If title tags and highlighted content involves a crime, social media company that does not remove the content in 4 hours might face a criminal investigation itself, either the representative or other people. And if the content that threatens the life and property is known by social media company, and if any delays might cause risks, social media company is required to inform the authorities about the content and the content maker. So social media companies will have to work as a fourth arm of the Turkish authorities if they want to remain operating in Turkey. So the Telecommunication Authority might carry out inspections at the premises of the social media company, and they are also required to locate the data in Turkey. So elections are coming and bells are ringing. I hope that this is not my final speech outside my own country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, please.